Welcome back everybody to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin. And today's act is Act 10, One Side of the Soul. And we have officially met Jin-e. Last chapter he was called Kurogasa. And I was going along with the name of Kurogasa because I just didn't really know. I knew his name was Jin-e. I just didn't really know how to go about it. I can't help but think of the things that are going to happen in the future. One of the fun things about making these videos for me is catching all the little nuances that hint at future events. But at the same time, I'm trying to tackle this series by thinking of it as, for someone who hasn't yet read ahead, or hasn't yet seen the anime, or hasn't yet been exposed to Rurouni Kenshin. But I very much think that most of us, a lot of us, if any, are watching these videos and enjoying these videos because we already know Kenshin and we just want to see more Kenshin content. At least that's what I keep telling myself. I just assume that anybody who's watching Kenshin videos is people who like Kenshin. But who knows? Who knows? One of these days, someday maybe, someday in the rain, I'll get a comment that says that they are reading Kenshin blind. And that will be an exciting day because it's somebody's first time with Kenshin. But for now, let's go ahead and get into this chapter. And we'll do that by reading the summary. Kurogasa appears. He counts the total number of people in the room as he readies his attack. The patriot, whose life is most in danger, sends his hired men to attack the hitokiri standing before them, promising them 5 times the original offer and an army officer job. Just as the greedy men are about to attack, Kurogasa uses his technique, Shin no Ippo, to paralyze everyone in the room. The only one who doesn't seem to be affected by it is Sanosuke, and then, of course, Kenshin. Through this technique, Kenshin identified Kurogasa as Jin-e, and Jin-e was able to identify Kenshin as Batosai. Now Jin-e has decided to change his target from the greedy patriot to the former Hitokiri Batosai. So here we are, 2 men who fought in the Bakumatsu, though never quite encountering one another, now have a death match upon them. Kenshin, who has his vow to never kill, and Jin-e, who wants the head of the Hitokiri Batosai, the most famous man of the Bakumatsu. How will this go? Well, we don't know yet, but for now, let's talk about the key points in this chapter. And we can start off by talking about the very patriot whose life is most in danger in this chapter. And God, does he suck! He makes it very difficult to want to care for him. He makes it very difficult to see exactly why it is that Sanosuke has the mark of Aku on his back. That while this guy sits very pretty in his office, he's obviously put on some pounds. He's put on some weight since the revolution and has gotten very, very greedy, to the point that he feels that he can throw money to save his life. Now, this is already known, as it is something that is covered in the previous chapter, but here we actually get to see him do it, as he offers a challenge to every man in the room that the one who gets Kurogasa or Jin-e's head gets paid 5 times over the original price, and a government job, which is really, really important to the narrative that we're talking about, because this again just goes into the examples that I have been talking about in these past few weeks, that yes, the revolution is not over, and it is specifically because of this type of man right here. He is just what you expect when thinking about capitalism and democracy intertwine with each other in a government setting. This is the type of guy that will walk on a carpet of skulls if it means that he gets to live comfortably and profitably. So it adds a little bit of a gray area to this story, because it just shows that Jin-e, while obviously being evil, being a man who is very villainous, a person might be able to make a case for what he is doing. A person who has been down on their luck, who has life going the very opposite way for them, a person who can probably not afford to feed his family or make ends meet, would become sympathetic to a character such as this. A person who has taken it upon themselves for vigilante justice and removing all of the patriotic swine who have corrupted the government, and in this new era that is supposed to be better for everyone. And this is exactly why in the previous chapter, the police are asking the media to not report on this. Because if there is news of a vigilante going about killing old patriots, it could cause another revolt, another revolution. People who are sympathetic to this man's cause. But not only that, through this patriotic swine, this pig of a man, this greedy person, we get to learn something about Kenshin's character. Because it is not just people who are innocent that Kenshin is deciding to protect. He is also deciding to protect people who don't fit into the perfect picture image of a noble person or a countryman who cannot protect themselves. This is the type of person that Sanosuke wouldn't save on his own had he not met Kenshin. This is a person that Sanosuke would have let die, but not Kenshin. And because of Kenshin's influence, Sanosuke won't either. It reveals to us that Kenshin will protect anyone and everybody who is in harm's way. If there is a murderer afoot, Kenshin will do his best to protect these people. And that just makes him so much more of a good character. And we find this out through this type of man, through this abysmal person. And Kurogasa actually says something I find absolutely true. Absolutely fascinating. And it is in the page where Kurogasa, or Jin-e, is about to attack the patriot Tani, and Kenshin is yelling at him to break the paralysis through his will, and Jin-e says that this person can no longer do it. There's no way in hell that he can. And it is true. It is true, because this person's will has gone sour. So yeah, I just want to give a highlight to Jin-e in that instance. And then he also says, once they would pay me a huge sum to kill, now they call it a crime. It also just highlights the changing of the times, but also the hypocrisy of the patriots in a way, where they hired assassins to kill for their cause, but once this is over, once this is no longer relevant, or once it is no longer needed, now it is a crime. Now he could be sentenced to jail or execution. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's enough about the Patriot. Let's go ahead and talk about Kaoru, because I just want to give a quick highlight to Kaoru. The beginning page of the chapter shows us Kaoru staying up at night, not being able to sleep because she's worried for Kenshin and Sanosuke, but mostly Kenshin. And I think that this is really just the first hint of the blooming romance between Kenshin and Kaoru, that she worries about him despite feeling that there's nothing really to worry about because Kenshin is who Kenshin is. But this also will lead into the revelation that Kenshin is still just a human, but I'll get more into that in a bit. For now, I'm going to take it back to Sanosuke, who was the first person that we see break through the Shin no Ippo. It has already been established to us that Sanosuke is not just an average fighter. He is a person who stands above the rest as the person who was able to give Kenshin a hard time when fighting. He was a person who just would not go down. But here we just get more establishment that this is the type of character. And The reason that this is important, the reason that we need more of these reaffirmations that Sanosuke is not a chump, is so that when the future antagonists come and they give Sanosuke such a hard time, not only does it show us the power gap between these other villains than Sanosuke, but we also have like kind of like a measure where we see like, okay, Sanosuke's here, Kenshin's here, and the villains are somewhere in the middle. But we don't exactly expect Sanosuke to be a wimp, because he can easily hold out. He is a person who has above average strength. And with that, let's talk about the Shin-no Ippo. The Shin-no Ippo is very important in the context of the story, as it is the first technique that we see that is really more magical than anything that we've seen before, as it causes paralysis in the victims of the user. As it is used, it is established that this technique is not magic. There was some type of training involved for Jin-e to be able to execute this type of technique. It clearly states in the act that this isn't magic, and it is important that this is established, because we learn here that this world is not magical. There aren't going to be any fireballs thrown at us. There aren't going to be any magic spells cast upon Kenshin. It is all based in reality in this world. The thing that makes Kenshin and Jin-e and Sanosuke and all of the future antagonists and all of the future amazing people that we will meet in this series is that these are extraordinary men living amongst the common. These are people who have retained their special abilities because of training and perseverance. And the average person does not have these techniques, does not have this fighting ability, because we now live in a world that does not require it. And that is why this is so important for us to know that Jin-e's Shin-no Ippo is not magic. And we'll continue to see that as the series progresses. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Act 10. One Side of the Soul. What did you guys think of this chapter? Man, I really like this chapter. I didn't think that I was going to have a whole lot to say, just because it was a lot of action when reading the page. But I feel like I was really able to get into it this time around. But to try and not keep this video going any longer, I'm going to end it here. So if you like this, consider subscribing to the channel and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. If you didn't, then comment down below and let me know what you didn't like about it, so that we can continue to improve this series as we go on from here. This is Act 10 out of 200 chapters, so we have a long ways to go. I would appreciate it if you guys offer some insight to help make this experience a lot more enjoyable. But for now, I'll see you guys next week in Act 11. Bye, cha.